This is the Head Rush Podcast with Paul Fraze and Corey Berry.
Welcome to the Head Rush Podcast. I'm Paul Fraze, and I played 11 years in the NFL, and our co-host, Corey Berry, rode professional rodeo for 9 years. At the Head Rush Podcast, we talk about everything related to brain trauma and brain health and wellness. We talk about traumatic brain injury, TBI, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. We talk about TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, and we talk about repeated head impacts as well as repeated blast exposure. Gosh, I'm tripping up on that one. We cover how traumatic brain injuries can and will cause mental health issues such as depression, addiction, lack of executive function, memory loss, and even suicide ideation, as well as degenerative neurological issues. These symptoms can be found on the Mayo Clinic and Boston University websites under symptoms of CTE. Our mantra is how to cope and find hope. And we focus our energy on finding therapies and sharing hope through education and by raising awareness.
I think you got through that one pretty good.
You get tongue-tied.
But you know, the way you looked earlier today, here, let's show a picture of how he looked earlier today, Andrew. Look at that beautiful picture.
Really? Did you just do that?
I just did that. Our guest today.
Introduce our guest, please. Our esteemed guest.
Our esteemed guests today are Scott Thompson and Dave Zabriskie. Is that how you say it, Dave?
Yeah, that works.
Who are co-founders of Cognitive Protocol. And Cognitive Protocol is a system to give people control over their cognitive health, especially after head trauma. Dave is the first American, I believe, to wear the leader jersey in all three Grand Tour cycling events, France, Italy, and Spain. Is that true? Were you the first one?
The first, it was actually to win stages in all the three Grand Tours. But yeah, I did wear the leader's jersey in the Tour de France for 4 days in 2005.
Wow.
That's impressive.
That's awesome.
Scott, anything like that in your past sporting history?
One time in college, I rode home from the liquor store with a keg balanced on my handlebars.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
that's pretty much my biggest achievement on the bike.
It was for you.
I was on the management side.
Yeah. It wasn't for you. It was for the team, right?
Oh no, it was a physics lab experiment. That's what I told my parents.
And Scott Thompson is retired team cyclist manager and co-founder of the Cognitive Protocol.
Yep.
You also wrestled in college and played football too, didn't you, Scott?
Yeah, I played football in high school, and I actually really hated the helmet. Because I got headaches all the time. And so, obviously the helmet was what was giving me the headaches. So I decided to wrestle. I wrestled for my first 2 years at junior college. And then when I transferred to UC Davis, I started playing rugby. And I actually did a semester abroad and played one season of rugby in London as well. So that was a really interesting experience.
We just had on Bruce Parkman, who he's a Green Beret, 18 years Green Beret, 21 years in the service, but he played in the professional, the rugby league in
semi-pro.
Semi-pro, yeah. So I know that you rugby players have a screw loose. So
100%, and I mean I played decades ago, and the game was dramatically different, which is why that picture of me playing rugby, it was a line out, and now they allow lifting, so you will see the forwards 10 feet up in the air, but that was all human powered right there, no lifting.
So So, Scott, your core belief is you can't out train a broken brain, and you are the science first innovator, reshaping how we think about brain health and performance through cognitive protocol. We're going to dive into cognitive protocol in your systems towards the end of the show, but I want to hear your stories. We talk, obviously, you through our introduction, you hear that we talk about traumatic brain injury, so on and so forth. I want Dave to share first. And one thing that, as an elite cyclist, you were an elite cyclist in the world for quite a while. But when I think about cycling, as a football player, I don't think about traumatic brain injury as much. Well, really at all, unless you're in a, I guess a pileup or an accident. But so educate us to the problem of TBI in the cycling world. And Scott, you actually had a statistic when we spoke last week that I was shocked, but
as were we. So it's largely reported that the number one reason that people go to an emergency room with a head injury, the activity that they were participating in was cycling. So it's definitely an issue in the activity of cycling that really doesn't get talked about a lot.
Dave, give us a part of your history in your cycling, and then I want to hear how TBI has affected you, during the cycling. I would love to hear your story.
Yeah, my story, just as far as hitting my head, I've broken a lot of helmets over the years, but my probably one of the bigger head injuries I got was it's called the Redlands Classic in Riverside, California, and it was a pretty stressful stage, really windy, and the next thing I remember was I woke up in a helicopter, and I just heard the blades whirring over my head, and I remember just trying to wiggle my toes to make sure, I hope I'm not paralyzed, and I could wiggle my toes, so I felt kind of happy about that. And then from there, it was just to the hospital, getting stitched up, and trying to get back to racing as fast as possible, kind of because that's how it was back then. And now they have concussion protocols when people crash, but it's a lot different now. But they try to manage it for the athletes as best that they can. But so that was my big one, but there was multiple small ones before that and even after that that really, I think, just kind of take a toll over time, just the repeatedness of it. And that's kind of what led me into brain health in a way. Then after I retired, I did do the Race Across America, and my team we did a 4-man relay team, and I had on my team two motorcycle guys. One was Ben Bostrom, the other Mickey Diamond, and then we had a BMX athlete named Dave Mira. And him and I, the way the 4-man team works is you kind of split up into twos. So I was with Dave Mira, and then the motorcycle guys were together, and then you're out on the road together, trying to get from California to Maryland. And it's pretty fatiguing and stressful just as it is. And Dave was he was really up and down throughout the 6 days that it took us. And I was just kind of thinking it was fatigue and sleep deprivation, which I'm sure some of it was, but about a year or two after he died from CTE, they found out. And that really hit home for me, just making me question my head injuries and what I was going through in my personal life, and just wondering I don't know, is there something wrong with me? Is that why I'm the way I am or the way I have been? And kind of wanting to try to be proactive, but not really know what to do or where to start. And that's kind of where Scott and I connected on this project. And that's where we're at today.
So what is your story? Did you play sports before cycling? How old were you when you started? When did you go pro? Were you Lance Armstrong days?
So I grew up in Salt Lake City and pretty active as a kid. So for sure there's some head impacts there. Just playing around is like jumping off roofs, jumping on trampolines, falling off of those, slipping on the ice, skiing. And even in a lot of those, there wasn't even a helmet involved. So, you just start to go back in time and kind of add them all up and start to wonder. But then really the cycling I started messing around on a road bike when I was 15, and then I joined a local club when I was 16, and I was on the national team by the time I was 18 and traveling the world. And then I went professional when I was 22 onto the U.S. Postal team, and then raced a long time and retired in 2013. And that's that.
In the race across America, do you guys, and a buddy of mine did it, Don Davey, he used to play for the Packers and then with the Jaguars, and I was a teammate of his, but he did it a few years back. And do you guys do it in legs? Do one guy ride for so many miles and then the next guy rides while the other three guys sitting in the van, or what, or do you ride all 2,600 miles? Or whatever it was.
It's a lot more than 2,600.
Is it?
Yeah, it was something I always wanted to do. So when Mickey Diamond, he's the guy that put it together. So when he suggested it, I was kind of excited and on board. And then I wasn't sure how, you start to think about, how's it going to work? And there's kind of a formula that these guys have come up with. I mean, if you do it solo, that's kind of an insane feat to even go for. But as a four-man team, which is what we had, so you have one camper, and then you have two guys kind of trying to sleep in that, which you don't ever get to sleep because it's just you're rattling around too much. But the idea is just you never stop moving. So you have two guys in a camper trying to rest while the other two are out on the road. And then it would work so I would be riding solo, but only for about 20, 25 minutes. And then I would get in the follow car and transition with Dave Mira, and he would ride 25 minutes. And then I'd be in the car following behind him. And we would do that for about 100 miles. So you're riding these little 25-minute intervals across the country. And it sounds kind of crazy doing what I did, like the tour where you're doing 100 plus miles a day. 25 minutes doesn't sound very much, but it just becomes a real efficient way to attack that kind of event. It was really cool because you didn't have to carry any food. You didn't have to, you could get in the car after you're freezing. You could turn the heat on. Or if it got too hot, you could turn the AC on. So you do little intervals, then you get in the car, recover. And it was almost easier to be out there pedaling and doing it that way than trying to recover in the camper, because the camper was basically a toy hauler with some army cots in the back where the exhaust would leak into in the bathrooms. By the end of this thing, it was a real mess.
It sounds like a hockey player that they go out and sprint for a minute or two or three, whatever. And then they're off the ice, and then they get rested. So you're sprinting during the 25 minutes.
I wouldn't call it a sprint, but you could go harder than you could for 100 miles. So you're going a pretty stiff pace. Yeah.
So you lost one of your teammates. How old was he, and who diagnosed his brain for CTE?
Yeah, they had a university, I think, in Canada do it. Is what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And he was probably early 40s.
Wow.
I would say, yeah, most likely. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Millennium Health Centers, Dr. Mark Gordon at TBIHealthNow.org. He signed on with us. You've seen him in our episode 2 with Dr. Mizell DeMeo and Dr. Gordon.
Dr. Gordon's been featured on a movie, Quiet Explosions, a documentary about TBI. Featured Andrew Marr, a Green Beret blast explosive specialist, and they talk about TBI, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, and gosh, I've watched that movie about 4 times, and I know Dr. Gordon has also been on Joe Rogan 6 times, so he has something good and powerful to say about about TBI, traumatic brain injury. So go to TBIHelpNow.org.
Correct.
And make sure you get in touch with their team. Dr. Gordon also works with the military. Do you want to?
Yeah, he works with the United States military. He's done the Pentagon. He's working real close with them. If you're a veteran and you need help, go to TBIHelpNow.org. Dr. Mark Gordon quit his private practice just to work with the military.
Work with veterans suffering with PTSD.
Right, PTSD, TBIs, and repeated blast impacts.
Exactly.
And if you are a veteran, there's nothing closer to my heart than the people that serve our country and protect our way of right and our way to be able to do this podcast for you. So go to TBIHelpNow.org and get the help you need. Mark Gordon, we work with him on the Brainwell program through Mizell DeMeo. If you go to TBIHelpNow.org, there's a list. There may be a provider in your area in Canada. He's all over. So go to TBIHelpNow.org and check it out. I know we did a Zoom before doing this podcast and we bantered back and forth. I suffer and I'm ahead on the spectrum more than Paul is, thank God. I don't think he could handle this. Being an NFL guy, just a D-line.
Yeah, those rodeo guys. pretty tough.
So both of you had several concussions. Scott, you talked about your wrestling, your football growing up. And I know we talked about years of repeated head impacts. What are some of the struggles? And let's start with you, Scott. What are some of the struggles you deal with on a daily basis? And how is your executive function, your memory loss, and all of that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because thinking back to my playing days, I've never been diagnosed with a concussion because it was really, you get hit and you had your bell rung. That's not a concussion. You're fine, and primarily the diagnosis was how many fingers am I holding up? And if you got within one finger, they're like, okay, you're fine. And that was pretty much it. I definitely remember at least a half a dozen times when I was playing where I would get up from a hit and shake my head, which we now know is kind of an involuntary response to an impact. And in my rugby days, I definitely remember having one concussion where, I saw lights and stars but you're still standing, you're still able to run, you're not limping. So in that day and age, the stars go away and you're like, okay, I'm fine. So I think really my biggest issue currently is denial. I take a lot of I think a lot of it comes from like never being diagnosed, even though rationally, I know that that is completely meaningless. But it's so funny as athletes. We don't want to show any weakness. We definitely don't want to admit to a trainer that we have an issue, because that means we might get benched. But as I think back of it, I think about my mood swings. I think about the times that I go into a room and like, what did I come into this room for? Or, I open up a web browser on my phone and what I was going to search for is completely gone from my memory. Now, again, my denial would like to attribute that to the fact that I'm 56 years old. But, as I think about it, I think about my playing history. I think about what I did to my brain on a regular basis. It's getting harder and harder for me to deny that, certainly I've had a fair share of subconcussive impacts, and I know that I have had concussions. So really it's, I'm trying to preserve as much of that executive function as I possibly can. And, really not wanting the progressive cognitive decline that comes with aging. I don't want that to be exacerbated by my history of head injuries. So I try to do whatever I can to mitigate that. But really the big impacts on me were as a caregiver. And that's been in my personal life as well as my sporting life and my career in cycling management. One of my dear friends who I worked with his entire pro cycling career, he had his second concussion in quick succession at a race called the Tour of the Gila, and that ended his career. He wasn't able to come back from that brain injury, and it was a frontal lobe injury, so it really destroyed his emotional center. And seeing somebody with such high emotional intelligence and just an amazing capacity for empathy be overnight separated from his ability to connect, his ability to experience emotions, that was just absolutely heartbreaking. And it also made me think of, I drove a teammate of mine when I was playing college rugby to the hospital after he got a concussion. And the whole way to the hospital, he was asking me, Scott, did we have a game today? I'm like, yes, we had a game today. No. Scott, did we have a game today? Yes, we had a game today. Oh. And for years, I told that story because I thought it was funny. And it's just shameful the way that we used to address concussion. Even 10, 20 years ago, it really took this amazing group of people who are out there advocating to start that conversation. And the fact that so many people are aware of CTE now is it does give me hope. So
I think we just had a big discussion about TES, traumatic encephalopathy syndrome, on how I'm diagnosed, but it's not a billable code. And I don't think there's enough validation out there to where, like me and Bruce just talked to Paul, you need to go get this validated. The more people that get validated, the more modalities may be able to come open due to the mental health. I couldn't remember my dog's name last week. He's 8 years old. My wife told, and the only reason why I remember this is because my wife told, I don't know who she told somebody, I think it was DeMeo. It might have been DeMeo, told someone, that Corey looked at me and goes, "What's his name? The red dog's name?" That's my personal dog. Or me, like you said, take 5 times to go get a water bottle. 5 trips. Oops, I went over and done this, came back. Oops, I went and done this. And I think we need to circulate more on to the repeated head impacts and the TES. And cycling, I had a buddy of mine that we talked about had one of them little 10-ounce or 112-pound or whatever it was, mountain bike and road bikes, and he did the hotter than hell here in Texas. I think it took him, 6 hours you had to do it in, right? The 100 miles. Did you ever do that, Dave?
No, I didn't do that one, but yeah, it's I've heard of it. Yeah,
and it had to do
6 hours sounds about right for 100 miles.
Right, and after that
to a professional cyclist or a retired professional cyclist, 6 hours sounds reasonable for 100 miles.
In my car.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a cyclist, I know when you get hit, rub tires, or, how many repeated head impacts and concussions do you think you've had, Dave? And do you have symptoms today? I know we talked about some of them, so I want to bring it up and bring it to the front of the world so everyone knows cyclists happen too.
Yeah, probably within the range of 10 to 20, probably, realistically. Yeah, it's just it happens it just happens even if you just falling off the bike, like even if you're not breaking your helmet, you're just hitting the helmet, and it's just a brain, like it's once it hits that pavement, it's like a jiggle. You're stunned for sure. And just crashing is such a big part of bike racing. Like it's just almost like it's a horrible part of it, but it's part of it just because sometimes like everybody knows that there's just an important turn coming up, and you've got like 200 guys with a radio in their ear, and you've got the guy in the car screaming at everybody that you need to be the first guy into this turn. And so the race will get so stressful just to get into this turn, because then there's going to be a climb or some cobblestones, or the road's going to go from a big road to a small road. And so everybody just knows that a crash is going to happen. And that's just kind of how you make these. And there's multiple crashes throughout the day. It's just kind of, they call it making the selection. And you're just hoping that you don't hit the deck too hard, but it's just part of the sport. Like, it's just how the race gets whittled down from 180 guys down to 5 guys, and then the eventual winner. But it's very, very stressful day in and day out, just to there's way more to it than just getting to the finish line. There's multiple races within the race just to get to these certain spots. And there's crashes in every single race, every time. Yeah, it's just part of it.
So what do you struggle with now?
Yeah, it's been, I'd say depression, just mood regulation, motivation, just definitely can't seem to handle a lot. Like if there's a lot on my plate, like I'll kind of just shut down, and like I can't, like there's no way I can do all that. Like, and it won't even be that much. Like just going on a trip with the family, like it causes me so much anxiety for some reason, that I just kind of shut down and don't want to deal with it. And it's just, just stuff like that. So I just kind of try to stay on a simple routine, and and like I can feel like, if it's coming, if my routine gets a little messed up, it can trigger things that just aren't nice to be around for anybody. So then I can kind of feel it coming, or sometimes I hope that I feel it coming, and I can isolate myself from my family so that I don't give everyone a scarring experience, but just things like that, really.
So you take those 10 or 20 that you're talking about, and I'm sure it's more in the cycling, and then you add it to all of the trampoline jumping and so on and so forth, and the times you hit your head as a kid. Absolutely. I mean, and that's when your brain is undeveloped and the myelin sheath is not protecting the axons, right? Then we're really screwing our. I remember my brothers. We used to do a trail through the woods, and they would dig up, pits, and you'll understand how backwoods I am, I guess, right? Anyway,
New Hampshire backwoods.
New Hampshire. So it was a gauntlet. It was a trail that, okay, you're ready, and you had to sprint, unknowing of the holes that the potholes and what you're going to trip in and fall in. And one time I my brother had sat up in a tree, and he softly lofted a basketball at my head. No, he was like, whoa. Well, you think about the things that we do when our brains are underdeveloped. And, going back to one thing that you mentioned, Scott, I mean, there are modalities. There are things that we can do for our brain health, our mental health, period. And Corey's been getting on me to get, diagnosed, whether it's TES or, I mean, I probably could, self-diagnose. But in order for us to get an insurance to cover nutraceuticals and a lot of these things have actually been tried and tested, tried and true, and they are shown to have, give advantages to your body and your health and your mental health as well. But, now we're kind of getting into cognitive protocol. We all know on this podcast that we all have dealt with head trauma, and we all want to, the awareness to me gives me hope, because you said, David, you talked about, I don't want my family to see some of these unsightly things. Well, in my mid 40s, it's like somebody turned a light switch, and all of a sudden I went from empathetic and sympathetic to apathetic. And I went totally rage. It was rage that I had never experienced before, but I didn't care because I liked it. And now you're going to listen to me this time. This episode of the Head Rush Podcast is brought to you by our personal doctor and team of doctors, Dr. Mizelle DeMayo, and she's with the Paradise Behavioral Health, and we are in the
Brainwell program, which is also part of the Millennium Health Center. Dr. Mark Gordon, you've seen him on Joe Rogan and even on our show, the Head Rush Podcast. And hormones. And Mizelle is awesome. We love her.
She's our doctor of psychiatry. She works the Mark Gordon program with the hormones, and she adds her twist of genetics, and it basically is melding two wonderful mediums together, and we're getting great help from Dr. Mizelle DeMayo.
So please check out her website at paradisebehavioral.com. Look up the Brainwell program, get involved,
She's sponsoring us. They're sponsoring us for the next year, so we are excited to have them on board and shout the good news to everybody that is watching these broadcasts. So,
is she helping you, Paul?
Absolutely,
she's helping me. So go check her out. ParadiseBehavioralHealth.com.
When I started understanding what it could be, the thousands of repeated head impacts, I started saying, okay, if I can control this, or if I can have the thought to go into the room and not bother my family or whatever it is, it gave me hope to kind of realize, okay, I still have a little bit of cognitive decisiveness left to, make that decision, so going to cognitive protocol, going to nutraceuticals, going to TMS, going to therapies that photobiomodulation, going to
HBOT,
the hyperbaric chamber, so on and so forth. We all know that there's benefits to that. I want to hear, Scott, you're the scientist.
Well, before we go there,
yeah.
Scott talked a little bit about what he deals with on a daily basis. Me and Dave struggle real bad. I think me and Dave are probably closer on the Richter scale than you two are. I think me and Dave have a lot of the same frustrations, the same rages, the same forgetfulness and stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, Paul, what are your struggles that you haven't brought it up lately? So what are your struggles that you deal with? And let's be honest, you haven't done it since we started this show. Let's talk about some of the real...
A little bit. And you've been listening to me for the last 33 minutes.
Come on, tell me.
I absolutely... first of all, like I said, mid-40s, I had...
Now, the juggler in the brain and telling your daughter the rage, we've heard that story. Tell me today what you're struggling with now, your executive function. Do you have mood swings?
What I struggled with then, I was addiction. I was drinking way too much beer and apathetic. The rage right now, executive function, especially if I don't eat correctly, especially, we just passed a holiday where freaking Reese's peanut butter cups were all over the place and like little eggs. And when I eat the wrong things, I absolutely forget memory loss. Executive function is okay at best. Probably no. I used to be able to juggle a lot of things at one time, but I can't now. And if I do the wrong things and if I treat my body the wrong way and ingest the wrong things, I'm toast. You talk about forgetting your dog's name. At least you remembered it was the color red was, right? But literally the past few days I've been sitting there thinking, okay, what do I need to write in my calendar? I know, it's just, the loss of executive function and the memory loss is strong. You just can't do the things that you used to be able to do. And that's, I'm going on 60.
So is it turning 60 or do you have neurobehavioral changes? Do you have...
Definitely.
I mean, what me and Dave have talked about and Scott talked about is deep and harsh. I mean, when you actually sit back and think about it, are you right there with us, do you believe?
I can be. I definitely can sit there in a daze and wake up from the stupor after a minute and say, okay, I wasted that freaking minute of the day. Absolutely. I can binge watch something when I know I should be doing a report. I can, yeah, absolutely. There's some things that are there are some things that are very like, what we're all going through, and we're all different too.
Right.
We're all different. I mean,
well, that's why
I was. Yeah. Well, I wasn't crazy enough to get on a 1,300-pound horse and bareback and ride and have 24 swishes, but I was
crazy enough to hit a 330-pound lineman.
Yeah.
Dave was crazy enough. How many helmets do you think you broke in your career?
Yeah, probably six or eight, I'd say. Yeah. And every time they're like, oh, the helmet saved your life. They like to say that for some reason.
And those helmets, they don't make them to break, do they? They think that they're not going to break.
No, yeah, I think they're made to crumple a little bit, but they definitely do. They help. Yeah.
Do you think it stopped your brain from hitting the front of your head though?
No, it doesn't do that.
No.
But they help in bicycle racing. Like they can help you with falling down and like an impact like that, scraping your head on the ground. But they definitely, I think one misconception is that they can save your life from getting hit by a car or something like that. Like they're not going to do much in an instance like that. That's I don't know. That's just a sore spot for me when you go to the hospital and that's the first question they ask. Like, even because I've been hit by a car and but it didn't really impact the helmet there. But it's a lot of the times the helmets, they're just not designed to help you necessarily getting run over. That's kind of a side.
Well, it doesn't stop your brain from bouncing off your skull. I had a doctor one time ask, to ride a horse, will you wear a helmet? And I said, why? And they said, well, kind of protect your head. I said, well, one, damage is already done. And yeah, I don't want more damage. God forbid I get more. And I says, but that's to protect you from breaking your skull, breaking skin open, bleeding. It's not going to stop your brain from bouncing off the helmet. Or bouncing off the skull inside your helmet. So why should I wear a helmet again? It's still going to cause the same issue. And so, I'm right there with you on the misconception. I mean, it's, in bareback riding, it's hard to wear a helmet because it's an extra 13 ounces or however much they weigh on your head, that when your head's slamming back, you don't need that much more added weight.
Yeah.
The bull riding, it makes sense, but, cowboys, some of them are still cowboys, and, I'll take a licking and keep on ticking. And waking up, I've been in a concussion. I told the story, I think the second episode, we were in California traveling, and I got bucked off and got concussed. And when I woke up, I swore we were in Texas. And I was about ready to throttle the hell out of the people. What the heck are we doing in Texas? We're supposed to be in California. Dude, we're in California. No, we're not. We're in Texas. I've been knocked out amnesia to where, like, a place in California, I almost said the name, a place in California, I got bucked off. The clown helped me behind the chutes. I got my spurs off, my chaps off, everything off. Helped another kid get down, get out, and I walked over to Frank, and I asked him, I said, what happened to my ride? He goes, Corey, you've asked me 3 times. This last wreck, November of 22, I was amnesiaed for 3 days. Not an hour, not 2 hours, 3 days. I was amnesia. I bought a car and didn't even know it. Because I thought I had to go back to work on Monday. So, I mean, our executive and our impacts, and you hit it, I think you said it better. It just sucks on some of these days. I think you said, Scott, it just sucks you can't get nothing figured out. Me making tacos last night. My wife made me make my own tacos last night. How much trouble did I have trying to get the right pieces on the tortilla?
She lined everything right up for you, right in the line. So you needed help.
It's this, and I'm right there with you, Dave. I call it my man cave. It's my bedroom.
Yeah.
When things go wrong, I go in my bedroom. Thank God my wife lives and works with me. Without my wife, I would be dead. Promise you right now, without my wife, I would not be talking to you guys on the phone. I would be dead. I can't handle a single day, a moment without her being here as my crutch. Walking on uneven ground is hard. I stumble.
Man. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep.
That's why Corey has been sharing with me. He goes to vestibular therapy all the time,
Right,
and
once a week.
And does that help you physically? Like,
I think it's keeping me clued in. They have me stand on foam and on a spring that moves, and you got to balance yourself and set balance and try to adjust your body. And it was kind of weird. I was sitting on a teeter-totter the other day. They have you go back and forth and barely touch, and then they have you try balancing, and then you go over to this motion board. And I realized, if I put my big toe down a little bit heavier, it moves that board. But my head don't know what my feet are doing. And so it's kind of like I sit there and I actually concentrate on putting my toe down a little bit deeper to see if I can balance. So I think working my brain to work my balance, to work my vestibular does help. Mm-hmm. And I think it's keeping me going. Welcome to the Head Rush Podcast, brought to you by the Patrick Risha CTE Awareness Foundation. Karen Siegel, thank you so much. Paul?
So go to stopcte.org, learn about their foundation, and they are sponsoring us for the next year. We are thrilled to have them team up with them and bring awareness to this disease.
So please go to their Facebook page, go to their website, check them out. Karen is very, very, very willing to work with you. Contact her, and if you do know her, thank her for us, or just go on their Facebook page and say thank you for sponsoring the Head Rush Podcast. And on to the cognitive protocol. What got you started in this, Scott? What steps have you taken, and what's available for it?
Yeah, great question. So, really, through my work in the supplement space, I saw the potential power of nutritional intervention. And so when we started thinking about this and our early strategies for formulation, we really wanted everything to be informed by clinical data as much as we could. And of course, clinical trials with concussion, I mean, there's some ethical concerns about that. You can't do what they normally do in the trials because it just wouldn't be ethical to subject people to head trauma just for the sake of a clinical trial. So looking at, there's some good clinicals out there with blast proximity concussions. There's some small scale human trials, but a lot of this stuff comes from animal models. And so with that, we decided very early on that our strategy for managing the shortcomings of clinical data, if you will, was that we really wanted to focus on ingredients that were not controversial, that had a lot of testing in human trials for other efficacy. And so they had really good safety track records. Omega fatty acids, great example. Critical for brain health, critical for concussion recovery. They're just one of those foundational compounds for your overall health and well-being as well. Fish as a source, we saw as a little bit problematic, particularly because when we started this, there were starting to be some supply chain issues with animal-based fish oil supplements, just because the fish, it was getting hard to feed the demand. So we really wanted to find a plant-based option, and we found ahi flower oil. So it's plant-based. It's a really comprehensive, complex omega supplement. And because it's a source of omega rather than the tissue of an organism that's been feeding on a source of omega, it has some different benefits. When you use ahi flower, you actually synthesize your own DHA and EPA. And when you synthesize it yourself, it tends to accumulate in the tissues that are most vulnerable to oxidative stress. Additionally, we paired that with a polyphenol called astaxanthin, and that's what makes salmon pink and shrimp pink and flamingos pink. But it's a really powerful polyphenol with some great clinicals behind it. And it turns out that, omega fatty acids and astaxanthin are also really good for supporting athletic performance, as it turns out. So really, we set out to look at what ingredients would be meaningful. We really wanted to focus on plant-based whenever possible, but if there was something that led with efficacy, as opposed to the plant-based option, we would chase the efficacy. So that led us to compounds like ETAS, enzyme-treated asparagus stock. In addition to being very calming and helping you fall asleep, it also increases the production of heat shock protein. Heat shock protein 70 is primarily for shepherding protein folding. So it is going to accurately fold the proteins. If they are damaged or misfolded, it will repair them. And if they can't be repaired, it will facilitate their expulsion. So that really piqued my interest because it has some action on the tau proteins, as does sulforaphane, a really powerful antioxidant from broccoli and Brussels sprouts. That has a huge impact on the NRF2 pathway, I believe. Could be NRF1. I don't have my notes in front of me, but so looking at managing oxidative stress, looking at addressing inflammation and neuroinflammation, and then coffee cherry extract. So the fruiting body that grows around the coffee bean, 100 milligram dose of coffee cherry extract has been shown in clinical trials to increase brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, production by 85%. So we came up with a suite of products that are really meaningful nutritional interventions. And we mentioned this on our introductory call. The early results that we were seeing from these formulas were quite frankly, too good to believe. And so we wanted to get our production formulas made and out to the market. We did kind of a soft launch so that we could really further our research and development and basically just confirm what we are seeing with our pre-production samples. And to a person, everybody that we've gotten on the protocol has gotten just remarkable benefits in a pretty short amount of time. And so we really want to do everything that we can to make it easy for people to get that nutritional support. Because it is hard, because we live in a world where Reese's peanut butter eggs are not the best nutritional solution.
But they taste the best. They taste the best, though, Scott.
They do.
No.
And so we find ourselves, a lot of us have a pro-inflammatory diet.
Right.
And if our brain injury is also putting us in a pro-inflammatory state, you know, the food that you eat may not be helping, and it may actually be adding to the problem. So we really wanted to make an easy nutritional intervention that people could take and easily integrate into their daily life. Because we know when you're dealing with a head injury, you know, managing your medication schedule is really hard. So we wanted to make it easy, and I think we've really accomplished that.
You've touched on so much in the past eight or 9 minutes, and wow, the inflammation. It's all about inflammation, right? The sugar that I ingest through that Reese's egg is not good for my brain.
And he has no control. I mean, the dude is just crazy on his sugar.
Chocolate and peanut butter is very hard to resist, in his defense.
Well, I should get the cacao 72% or something. They say that's good for you. I want some of that. Can you give me 300 milligrams of that coffee cherry thingy? You said it was really good for you, or?
Yep. Yeah, it's we've got you set up with some samples coming to both of you, so you should have them this week.
So you guys are in your infancy. You've just you've had a soft launch. You've had some wonderful response to the product. You're just getting off your standing on your feet, and how I'm excited. I know you said you're sending a little bit of the product, and I'm excited to try it and see. Well, my blood sugar has been raising over the past 10 years very steadily, and I'm pre-diabetic now. And if I don't do something, I'm going to be in trouble.
You're going to lose a leg.
I don't want to hear that, and that's why every time I looked at something that had sugar in it, he would say diabetes. So that's my trigger right now. And thank you. But the bottom line is I've got to do it myself. And we have, you can have, if you can have all the outside alarms and people, calling you and saying, it's just like alcohol. I had a problem with alcohol. There was nothing anybody could say. And I had to have that epiphany of, oh, I'm going to die. If I keep doing this, I want the opportunity to walk my daughter down the aisle, and boom.
What's the first thing in AA that you have to do?
Acknowledge what?
Acknowledge you have a problem.
Yeah, acknowledge you have.
So are you ready to take first step in chocolate? Acknowledge you have a problem.
I know. I just told the whole world who wants to tune in to tell. Anyway, I'm excited about testing the.
So how do they get a hold of Concussion Cognitive Protocol?
Yeah, it's cognitiveprotocol.com. So
I can remember that.
Can you?
Yep.
I just was going to call it concussion protocol, and we've been talking to him for an hour. And I want to ask you real quick, and I'm going to be frank because that's who I am. I'm going to be frank as Frank can be. And if you don't like Frank, go talk to Bob.
No filter.
No filter. I get on my Head Rush Podcast Facebook page, or I get on my regular Facebook page, or get on YouTube. I see algorithms because of us being part of Head Rush. 40 different types of concussion protocols. 40 different types of supplements. What sets you apart from them, do you think?
That's a great question. Number one, this was really born out of the head injury community. So it is for and by folks who are struggling with, long-term concussion symptoms, or anybody who just really wants to who wants to make their brain health a priority. We formulate based on science, and we extensively test everything that we make to make sure that we're getting the results that the clinical data suggests we should get. In addition to that, we take a much more holistic approach to what we do. You mentioned that sugar is an issue. We did not use sugar as our sweetener in any of our gel packs. They are sweetened with glycerin, so they're low calorie, no sugar, no stevia, no monk fruit, and they're still absolutely delicious. So really, it's our motivation really aligns with the values of your podcast. We really want to give people that hope. And one of the insidious things that this disease does is it makes you a passenger in your life, in your recovery, and absolutely when you are in the throes of that critical injury phase. You're a passenger. So really, we formulated our products with a mind towards empowerment for anybody who wants to prioritize their brain health, whether they've had one concussion or 100. So I think that's really what sets us apart.
So Dave, me and you are like on the same wavelength. We both have major issues, and
we just have a few minutes left.
We just got a few minutes left. I know that you're co-founder of this protocol, so I know you're taking it. With your long-term issues like what I have, taking this product, has it helped you, do you believe? Does it make you focus? Does it allow you a little bit more relief? I mean, what do you think? And not a salesman's pitch.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as long as it took a little while for it to kick in, I think, but now I'm just getting, I think I told you guys last time, like it sounds weird, but I'm sleeping a little bit less, like not like less than 8 hours, but like before I could seem to sleep like maybe 10 to 11 hours and wake up really groggy. And so I'm sleeping a little bit less, but it just seems like a more quality sleep. And I'm seeming to, I'm just enjoying, it sounds weird to say I'm enjoying exercise as a lifelong exerciser, but it's to transition from a professional to not a professional is like, I kind of force myself to do something active every day, and it wasn't always enjoyable. It's like it's almost brought on like a sadness sometimes, like, oh, I got to do it, or a guilty type like mindset, like I have to do this. And it's becoming more like when I started as a teenager, like an enjoyable experience, like even music that I haven't heard in a long time. It's like awakening sensations in me that I haven't had for decades. That's just, yeah, it's very interesting just to, I don't know, it's giving me just sensations that I haven't had in a long time. And that just gives me, I don't know, kind of hope that I can stay on the track and try to improve a little bit. Would be a little bit here and there is it's a victory.
Yeah, if we could arrest it and maybe improve a little bit, that would be good. I mean, sleep, the sleep in and of itself is
Crucial.
It's crucial. And you're getting a better sleep. You feel more emotional joy. Wow. Okay. That's and Scott, I'm sure you're probably yeah. Well, we are up against it, and we really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your stories and sharing about cognitive protocol, right?
Right.
Cognitive, guys, it's really simple. Cognitiveprotocol.com. And there's good products and good people behind this, even better people behind this, I think. So we've really enjoyed getting to know you. And you've already answered our question. We always ask a question about hope. You know, what do you feel you can bring hope to? And you both already mentioned, being able to get active again and enjoy it, so on and so forth.
So after we get our samples and talk to DeMeo, I'm going to get with Scott on Zoom and match up what supplements that I like. My fish oils, don't take that. And it's amazing. He said his fish oil comes with, what's that?
Polyphenols.
The polyphenol.
Very important.
Very important. And I'm not on that. So the transition we're going to see. And then what I would like to do is, I don't know how much samples you sent us, but the samples, what I would like to do is for us to try them and then to have them back on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do y'all think of that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sounds great. Love it. Yeah. And we sent you enough for 2 weeks, which is typical. That in our experience has been enough time for people to feel a difference.
Great. Looking forward to it.
And this is just something I drink out of a packet?
Yep. There's our creatine HCl is a pill, and our N-acetyl L-cysteine NAC is also a pill. Everything else is going to be in a gel pack. And so, yeah, you just squirt it right into your mouth or mix it with water or your favorite beverage.
Great.
Super easy to take.
Great. Thank you all so much for coming. I appreciate it all. You know, we've had a pro hockey player on. We've had a semi-pro NFL player.
I tried.
11 years.
I tried. Now we've had a professional cyclist who arguably was at the top of one of the top races in the world.
Well, he was the Tom Brady of cycling at one time.
Well,
No.
just for a little bit. You were on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
So, thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it so much. Thank you all. And I'd like to leave with, I always say,
Stay alert.
and stay alive.
This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute the practice of medicine. The use of this information and the materials linked to this podcast is at the user's own risk. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Users should not disregard and delay in obtaining medical advice from any medical condition they have, and they should seek the assistance of their healthcare professionals for any such conditions.